round it out right.
If that all don't
Alright.
cut it, you let me know.
Red dots.
Yeah.
20 of these in my pocket.
Red dot says we're back, so let's roll. The other two that are actually still in the wings will rejoin us. All you, Twyla.
All right, the first item is good news and recognition.
Does anybody have anything they would like to share tonight? Thank you, sir. Please step right up.
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. I'm here on behalf of the two ATV clubs to thank you very much for what you have done to help. It may not work, we all understand that, and it's not any of your fault, but you ought to pat yourself on the back because this town has actually worked with the ATV clubs, and I know towns within a stone's throw from here that have had clubs for over 20 years. And if you walk in and ask them for something, they run out the door. So take it, you've helped us a lot, and we really, really do appreciate it. And if it has anything, thank you for myself.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you. Anybody else?
We try to help everybody, Roger.
Yeah, I know.
Seeing no more movement in the room, let's move on to the next item.
We have no public hearings. It would be audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody wishing to address the council for anything on the agenda, please step forward. I didn't mean staff.
I was told to come at this time, so this is when I come. Lydia Colston, Finance Director. I'm coming with the results of the assessment that we had on Munis that the council authorized a couple of months ago. Good news is that we are a lot further along on the financials part than I felt that we were. We're really in just the testing and go live phase, which is going to happen on October 1st. So that will be the accounts payable and the financials portion of it. I was asked to bring a timeline for the additional modules, but before I do that, Barry Dunn provided a proposal for project managing the rest of the modules. It came out to be a figure that I don't believe should even be considered, and the total was, the cheap one was $186,000. The more expensive version was $384,000. So that is just not something that is even in the ballpark of feasible. So we'll just continue the way we have been, and we'll get there. And we're in the testing phase now, so I look forward to seeing how that has come out and making sure that it works properly and that we get going. A timeline that we have set up based on where we're at is 10/1/18 for the financials. For payroll, we're looking at a January 1st, 2019 go live. Business licensing and other licensing is going to be in there. It's just a matter of once the financials is live, then we can finish that setup and that'll go live too. So at the latest, I would say January 1st, but I'm looking more towards a November. And utility billing and tax billing, I'm looking at a July 1st, 2019 go live. What else was I asked for? So
In that, back
Yep.
to the Barry Dunn question.
Yep.
In that scope of services, what would they be provide? Well, the question within the question is, what the hell did we pay them for if they didn't know that we had already passed that point? And
Well, they had they looked at the system that we had already done.
Okay.
They interviewed me and other employees to see how much work had been done. So their recommendation was for the phase 1 of the project would be just for user testing, which would have been $9,000.
Okay.
We're doing that already with Tyler,
Right.
so I didn't feel the need to spend
Right.
$9,000 for that. So that was the only one. The other phases we haven't started yet, so they would be
picking up
project
where
managing and whatnot. My feeling is that based on the project management of the financial side of it, there's still considerable amount of input and work that would be required from me, that to have them oversee it would not save an exorbitant amount of time to justify that kind of cost.
Okay.
Also, at that last meeting, it was asked what the cost of a buyout of the contract would be. And I had reached out to their accounts receivable department, and we have a remaining balance of $376,000 on our contract. These current services run through June 30th, 2023. And if we were to buy out of the contract, we would be responsible for 30% of that remaining balance, which would come out to be about $113,000. So if we wanted to just up and walk away from Munis right now, it would cost the town $113,000.
Okay.
And that was the results of what I had. So, any questions on that?
Yes, please, Fern.
Couple is looking at those numbers. I mean, if you're telling me that someone actually knows the system says it's going to cost us $180,000 to $300,000 to get up and running, do you still feel that the $113,000 buyout is ridiculous, or do you? What's your heart at this point in time? I mean, not from a. I mean,
My heart is I've invested 2 years
Okay.
into this project. I really do feel that we've outgrown Trio. So whether it's we go with Munis or another software, which I don't believe there's anything out there that could fit us, we have to go somewhere. We're experiencing a lot of just anomalies with Trio that is making life difficult.
So you believe in this, and you feel this is the path
yes,
we need to go.
I do.
guess the other part of it would be is, as we move forward and going live, do we have in place, because it's not just you. I mean, I love to think that you're going to be here every day and everything's going to work good, but there's people that work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the funding available to get these people trained and up to speed?
That's included.
That's included.
Yeah, that's part of the training and implementation days that they have. We have set aside training days.
So there is a dollar value that we put aside for the training.
It's already part of the
It's
license.
built into that
package.
contract.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Good.
yeah. There's no additional, like, we don't have to pay any more just to be trained on it.
Unless you want a remedial or above and beyond what's already in that
Exactly.
scope.
In that package, you should get everything you need to make this work in that package. Okay.
Yep.
Just want to make sure you have what you need, because it's hard to take care of stuff without having the tools, that's all.
This is true.
And you're cross-training, right? In case, like, just for an example, you fell off a horse and broke your wrists. Somebody would be there to be able to take care of that, right?
That's kind of where I was going with that, without bringing up the horse thing. Okay?
Thanks for laughing. You knew where I was going with that. And also, just to talk a little bit about this, I know that we've had a discussion about this, but I wanted to bring it up. So the good news is we're actually launching. We're going live with some of these modules. We kind of peeled back some of the modules that we were looking at that with Munis to determine what, if any, maybe we didn't need right now, and just putting the framework into place so that we could use what we needed to use to get out of the Trio and Lifeboat into Munis.
And once we have these ones and going live, we can add any of the other ones that we haven't taken with minimal downtime.
Right. But the key was to get the ones that will allow us to do the current functions that we do with Trio and probably do them more efficiently and with less time by staff spent trying to run down issues for 3 and 4 weeks with no responses and things like that. Munis is more responsive, and because there was a little hiccup on the front end of us getting implemented, they've been very attentive, is what I understand, and they brought back some staff that is more familiar with what we're doing, and so they've been right in the game. Not that they weren't in the beginning, but maybe there was some disconnects. Now they're all in. We're on their radar, and they definitely, when we call, they definitely get back to us, right?
They've been more than helpful. They've offered it. I think it was roughly $44,000 in implementation costs that they're eating to kind of make things right and get us going and get us, using the product instead of just building the product. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Does your October 1st include general billing on financials, or where does that fall?
General billing is on there. We have a separate cashiering module, so that is going to the hardware is on back order, so that may fall a couple of weeks behind that 10-1, but it's going to be closely following it.
I was asking only, I'm going to clarify, and lifeboating is not the correct term that I would say. Okay, and the reason being is because we talked about this a year ago, and what I'm hearing from what we have for financial software available, you've already hit the priorities with the financial financials going online, including the receipting from the receipting part, payroll going on in January, as long as these deadlines that you've given us are realistic, I'm extremely more comfortable associated with that, because I was not feeling that love the last time we had this conversation going through this, that we need to make sure you got the resources to make it happen.
I was not as comfortable with that either until we had that Barry Dunn assessment and they kind of went through, just because I'd never done this before.
Right,
so
where
it
am
was
I?
one of those, I didn't know if I was 5 months in or 5 months out, you know, and having that reassurance that no, you're kind of on track and this is where you're at for a good go live date, that made me much more comfortable with the system and with where we're at with the system. So that's,
And having been a part of this where I work, these are good deadlines to be able to do it. Is it something that was the frustration for the last year? Absolutely. But, you know, the observation with the $376,000 from an assessment to be able to pick it up with somebody else that we're not going to have any need for, or a buyout for 113, end game is the fact is we will have a financial software that actually is fixing the needs that we were addressed to be able to move to this position.
and providing us with a lot more readily accessible information that Trio does not.
Correct.
A lot more reporting capabilities, things that we'll be able to get out to council and citizens in a much more timely fashion that Trio just doesn't provide.
Perfect. Anybody else? Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else sub-subject? Any other response to agenda items? No movement. Moving on, Twyla.
Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. This is the council's consent agenda. Item is removed will be discussed next. Seeing none. Order 2018-172 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants with a correction to number 14, which should have been $204,886.74. This number includes the employer contributions. Along with number 16, $897,754.20, and number 17 for $6,856.75, number 18 for $146,857.83, number 19 for $15,402.68, number 20 for $24,060, number 21 for $277,001.77, school accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 4 for $1,907.26, number 1007 for $253,770.86, number 1008 for $10,195.53, number 1009 for $34,029.62, number 1010 for $10,009.20, number 1830 for $508,191.48, number 1829 for $83,538.07, along with the minutes of August the 14th, 2018, and to set the polling hours, locations, register hours, and absentee casting hours, and to set a public hearing for September 18th for the special entertainment permit for the Lisbon Left-Hand Club.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Thank
Order
you.
passed, 7-0.
Next.
Under Council Orders, Ordinances, and Resolutions, Order 2018-173 to authorize the issuance of up to $294,000 in bonds for the Route 125 to Houston Street to the Urban Compact Line, which is the MDOT project.
Who's presenting?
I can start, and then Tom might want to fill in too. So at this point, we just received towards the end of August the updated costs of the projects, all three of the road projects. And out of all three of them, two of them, our 10% match has come over the $250,000. So we need to go to referendum to get taxpayer approval to move forward with the project. So as part of it, we don't know if we're going to need to bond it by the time we have to pay for this because of the way we set up the TIF. But when we take this to the taxpayers, we always want to include the bonding language up to that amount so that we don't have to go back to them a second time. So when they approve or disapprove a project, we want the bonding to be included, but it doesn't mean we're going to bond it. So so you'll see two of those on here tonight, and these are the most updated figures. So where we have a governor's race this November, it makes sense to put it on this November's election to get the pulse of the community on.
Where the question will read, will it show that we're going to look at TIF or whatever it is that we're looking at?
No, that's not part of the question.
So it's just
No,
gonna be
It's just
on
going
or
to be
not on?
education, giving them
So
the
we're going to do
education.
some sort of workshop between now and then and talk about
Yeah,
the plan could be,
exactly.
but we have to present it like this.
Exactly.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And it depends on when they do the projects too, because the state, the projects are severely underfunded, so they've got to come up with their portion of the funding as well before this can even move forward. So they may do it in steps, and if that's the case, it's going to drag out even longer and provide us the opportunity of getting those TIF funds in place as well.
So the key sound bites for the listening public are
Right.
we've taken action steps here to be able to have our piece of it here.
Exactly.
But the point that the voters need to know is that there's an ordinance for the 250 grand. If we don't get that approval, we can't do anything anyways, no matter
Right.
where it's coming from.
Exactly. And it's important for the audience to also know that we've already signed contracts with MDOT a few years ago for this whole project. So if for some reason the taxpayers vote it down, we're going to be on the hook for quite a bit of money for the right-of-way and the engineering costs, because that means the project's just going to come to a halt. And it needs to get done. The work needs to get done. Our sewer project on Main Street
It's close to 10 years being delayed. I don't think anybody's going to debate that one. so
No,
that's-
and
Anyone who drives out Main Street can see
Yeah,
how bad it
let me
is.
go to the
Right.
other side of this then, with
Yeah.
the governor's race in November. We're pushing it there just to kind of get a gauge of where we're at, or do we want to consider pushing it out to June? Just asking.
I think we ought to start now in case it does get voted down, and then we've got another try at it. Because if it gets voted down, then we need to figure out what our cost is going to be for that right-of-way and engineering.
Could you,
And I really think you're going to get a lot more in the November election than you would
Oh,
in the
no doubt about that. We'll definitely see a higher turnout.
whether it's going to be bigger regardless. May I?
Please.
Just so that people know, we're actually throwing out a figure of just under 300,000, and we're going to be looking at another figure over 400,000. What does that represent for the project? You have the total numbers.
I think that the overall project is close to
It's over 8 million.
$8 million, $9 million. It did go up a little bit with this last estimate that MDOT put
But that's the
forward.
two combined, right? The actual
Three,
urban.
actually. You get the intersection right at Main Street and 196, that's its own little project. And then, of course, the sewer district has their sewer line going up through there, which we're incorporating. And then there's a section from that intersection up to
Houston Street
Houston Street, and then there's the ladder that heads out of town.
to the urban compact, yeah. But we're talking about a project when they originally started was actually a couple, $3 million. That's actually escalated up to over $8 million. And if they engineer it one more time, it may be even more, who knows, right?
What's the end game for education to the point to be able to make sure that the voters actually know exactly what happens if they do vote this down, or why it's actually a good thing? What I don't want is actually have it be the criticism, the fact that we do nothing because they said no. I don't think that is a viable option in this discussion, so we, as elected officials, need to be doing the best to be able to educate people on what the value of this is. What's the plan?
I think we ought to come up, we can certainly have a workshop on it, but I think we ought to come up with some type of a flyer to explain what this is and do it through a mailing. I think that would hit all the households. That's the way I think we ought to do it.
There's an educational, there's a great, I'm going to use Constance in the Park, even though Ross isn't here. There's an opportunity for education right there on the 15th. That'll be a large show, a lot of turnout for that, and that might be a really good way for us to distribute.
On the
some,
what now?
Concerts in the Park on September
Oh, okay.
15th. It's only a couple weekends
Yep,
away here,
yep.
but it might be a good opportunity for us to get out there. And
We'll
I've
get
got zero
something
problem
put
with going out
together.
there as long as
Yep.
I have the right information and we can talk about it intelligently. I think it's really good to kind of get out.
And post it on social media. We'll do everything that we can to.
Exactly. I think that just getting out.
And, everybody knows this has been going on for the last few years. So I think the big part is the financing of the project, is get that out there.
Now, you had mentioned that is this a staggered payment, or is it a one-time? Oh,
No,
front
it's a staggered payment.
over a number of years, or is it?
Usually they bill you twice. They'll bill you at the onset, and then they'll bill you after the end of the project,
Completion.
which could take even months after it's completed, so, yeah.
We're looking out to, 3 years to the final payment, maybe, if not longer, right, at this point?
Probably longer, yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, that's it, really.
Anybody else?
So tonight, what you're doing is authorizing the language to go on the ballot, and we have a deadline of Friday to get that language for the ballot.
You have the language for each in here, so what you need
Yes.
from us is a motion, just as it reads here, for the order,
One more quick question
It will
before
do
we
the
move,
notice
if you don't
as well.
mind.
please.
Yeah, so since there's I heard you say 3 different projects, right? So will that require 3 different questions? So-
No,
okay.
because the other one, our 10%'s way under the 250,000.
Okay, that's what I want to understand. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you. Go ahead.
Do you want a
One more
motion?
time, Twyla? What was the,
Your 3 projects you're talking about are the,
so 2018-173, there's your motion. Right?
That's what I got.
Okay. I need that first motion.
I will make, there it is, go ahead, go for it. Authorize insurance up to $294,000 in bonds for Route 125 Houston Street Urban Compact Line for MDOT project.
I need a second for that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
order passed 7-0.
Now, 2018-175, I need a motion for that one.
And this includes the notice and the order for the
Correct.
public hearing? Yeah, okay.
Correct.
So it includes a public hearing.
And the notice on each of these motions?
So we adding that to the motion, so as far as the
Please.
public hearing,
If that's agreeable, if not, we'll go right down the list and do all 4.
Oh, that's
that's okay?
Okay.
So authorize insurance up to $430,000 in bonds for Route 125, 196 to Houston Street for the MDOT project, which includes the notice for public hearing.
I need a second to that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Next item.
Is number 77, to authorize the issuance of up to $675,000 in bonds for the fire truck. Is that where we're at?
Please.
Nathan Leclerc, Fire Chief.
Thank you.
So I'm giving you guys a breakdown of the reasons why we're asking to have this truck replaced. Sorry, sir. Engine 7's a 1994 Central States with a Spartan chassis pumper. The Central States brand truck is no longer around. The company was bought out and changed hands, and it's not even a company we can contact anymore. Many other trucks that were bought at the same time Engine 7 was purchased have already been replaced. For example, Durham, which has a truck that was very similar in design and age, I think it was only a few months different, was passed at the last Durham town meeting to get replaced, and they actually have their truck on order right now. Engine 7 was purchased with an expected lifespan of 25 years. In 1994, that was the plan that was put into effect then, well, the idea anyway. And in 2003, when the town accepted the fire truck replacement plan, it was slotted to be replaced in 2019 on that plan, which was also mimicked in the town's CIP plan. And just for full disclosure, Engine 7 did receive a half-life refurb in 2007. And the idea behind the refurb was to get the truck through the rest of its expected lifespan with correcting any major issues that were found with the truck at the time. Currently, the okay, I was getting ahead of myself a little bit. NFPA 1901, which is the National Fire Protection Agency, they're pretty much the agency that puts down all the codes that pretty much governs what the fire department does. Everything from equipment, turnout gear, air packs to fire trucks. And NFPA 1901, which is the standard fire apparatus, in Appendix D, they actually state that any vehicle over the age of 15 years old is highly recommended to be put in reserve status. not necessarily replace. They will not put a finite age on apparatus that understand that what New York City goes through is not the same as what Maine's going to go through. However, they also understand that any vehicles over the age of 25 years old should be replaced due to safety features that are usually not in the vehicle at the time they're made compared to what they are today. The truck currently has 25,000 miles on it with 3,044 engine hours on it. I want to point out that these don't sound like a lot. However, these mileages are for a vehicle that goes from cold to being run hard. Trying to do a little bit of research on the hours. There's a lot of idling hours and a lot of pumping hours of these trucks where the truck's not physically moving. So the engine's seeing time with no mileage being built up. Doing a little bit of research, I found that fire departments are using a calculation of anywhere between 35 to 50 miles per engine hour. And using the low end for us, that comes out to a equivalent mileage over 100,000 miles on Engine 7's motor. And again, that's hard mileage, that's hard use. The committee compiled a list of things that have been an issue with Engine 7, and it's currently issues with Engine 7, and I'll go through them really quick. Again, the vehicle is aging and has out-of-date components on the vehicle. Some of the big things are safety issues. For one, Engine 7 has lap belts. They're not three-point safety harness belts. Back when the truck was purchased, they weren't required in fire apparatus. We did look into having those changed back in 2007. However, all the companies that were willing to refurb the truck wouldn't touch those seat belts until they were engineered. And Spartan came back and said we can't put them in that truck for the seat layouts the way they are. They weren't putting three-point harnesses in the truck. The electrical system, when they build fire trucks, they pre-design electrical load, what's going to be in there. In 1994, the things that we're putting in the fire trucks wasn't the same we're putting in the fire trucks today. It wasn't accounting for multiple radio chargers or portable radios, the additional flashes we're putting into them, the chargers for thermal imaging cameras and the gas meters are all in there now, and that wasn't taken into account back in 1994 when the truck was purchased. The flex lines and other plumbing between the pump, discharges, and tank are starting to show wear. The truck's 24 years old, and we're getting to the point where the plumbing will have to look at being addressed at some point in time. The pump's still running great. It's everything else that goes along with it. Another thing that this truck doesn't have is ABS brakes. They weren't required back in '94 for these fire trucks, and this truck does not have ABS brakes. Body issues. One of the side effects of living in Maine, in New England in general, is the calcium and salt we put on the roads. So we're seeing some corrosion on the body, which is nothing unusual. It's just that is there, and it has been addressed once before, and we're showing wear again, mainly between where the stainless steel components and the aluminum meet. We're seeing that oxidation. The body substructure is rusting and starting to push away from the body. The body substructure is the skeleton of the truck with the cabinets hang off of. That's basically the strength of the truck, and what's happening is it's rusting, contorting, and pushing away from the truck. The body supports are rusted and pushing apart on both sides. The cab frame bolts are severely rusted and weakened. Corrosion on the electrical system. That's no surprise considering, again, the electrical system runs through the frames of the truck and all the salt and stuff's getting in there. The tank cradle of the truck has been replaced at least once and repaired again since replacement. Back in 2007, we had to have the tank cradle of the truck replaced. It was rusting through. So there was that. And we've also had numerous repairs done on the tank. In 2007, when the truck was refurbed, the company that did the refurb found that the original manufacturer of the truck didn't build the truck to the point where it did proper support for the tank per the tank manufacturer recommendations. So what we've been finding as a truck twists and turns, it has improper support, so the tank will crack in the welds. And they've tried bracing it, putting more supports in, but it's just the nature of the beast how the truck was manufactured. Other mechanical issues that we have found, a lot of stuff can be addressed and has to be addressed, even if the next year will have to be taken care of. The battery box is rusted and is getting very thin. The alternator bracket is backed out and bent. Cab lock piston on the driver's side has a severe leak. That was found just the other day as the cab was up and there was dumping fluid on the ground. The air tanks for the air brakes are deteriorated and rusted and have to be looked at and replaced soon. The brake throttle, which I'm not really sure what that is, the brake throttle valve, is severely corroded, and the mounting bolts will not be able to be removed due to corrosion, not to be drilled out. The exhaust system needs work, and the muffler brackets are rusted off. And the tires will have to be addressed due to age. The standard calls for tires that are 7 years, has to be 7 years or less, and these tires are much older than that, even though the tread's in good shape. A new truck would be in line with today's safety standards, technology, and firefighting practices. The truck would be safer to the occupants due to newer standards, with items such as better seatbelts. What they're doing is making seatbelts longer in the new fire trucks because when we wear all of our gear, standard seatbelts don't really reach, so they've had to increase the seatbelts. And fire trucks are a little different. Seatbelt sensors, which sounds kind of weird, but in the new trucks, there's an audible alarm that goes off once you disengage that air brake. If someone's actually sitting in the seatbelt's not on, the lights flash and trucks makes noise at you. Speed and roll sensors. With a lot of the new trucks now, if you're going too fast into a turn, the sensors indicate that, and it will disengage the throttle so you can't speed up and slow the truck down. Also, things like airbags, and a lot of manufacturers now are incorporating roll cages into the cab manufacturer to make a stronger cab for safer operations. We're looking for a truck that's more ergonomic with lower hose beds. I'm not sure if you guys have seen Engine 2. You almost need a step ladder to get up onto the truck to get the hose off the truck. We had a fire on Moody Road a couple years ago. We actually had a firefighter fall off the back of the truck trying to get a hose off. So making a truck with lower hose beds, more ergonomic, less potential for injury. Newer technology such as electronic pump governors, foam systems such as the compressed air foam system, air primers. The compressed air foam system, we're currently using that on the 2 newer trucks. And if, just to give you a quick rundown, it basically makes the water more efficient. We're using less water in fires, which causes less water damage in the long run to the homeowners. The air primers, the new ones are now air operated versus mechanical, which means less maintenance on the primers, less things with to maintain, like oil reservoirs aren't needed. So it's new technology like that decreases some maintenance costs down the road. And then materials and construction methods have changed since 1994. Currently, things such as galvanized frame rails are available, galvanized components of the trucks, larger frame rails are available. We've had the opportunity to buy stainless steel bodies, but we can also do full stainless steel substructures now and new construction methods that are out there for the apparatus. I also want to point out that ordering a truck now, if we were to order the truck today, it'll still take 270, 300 days just to show up. That's the signing of the contract, and those dates depend on the manufacturer. So if your truck was ordered today, it will be the next fiscal budget that we actually had to pay for the truck when it showed up. And I just also want to throw out again, I mentioned it the last time, that the industry standard for price increases is between 3 to 5%, and it's compounding every year. So if we were to buy a truck this year for $675,000, next year it would be $695,000, and the year after it would be over $700,000. I just want to keep that in mind as well.
Question I would first have, Chief, is where in the capital improvement plan does this currently sit?
It currently sits in the 2019 slot.
Then we're right in the time frame that we need to be having for the discussion, because from Lydia's perspective, at best, we would most likely not even have a payment on this until FY20 when you would pick it up.
Correct.
And then delivery of this item would not even happen until most likely mid to that year, next year.
Right. If we, realistically, we probably, if this passed referendum, you probably wouldn't be even ordering this truck until the end of January, beginning of February, depending on all the components and how we did timing and everything else. So yeah, you're looking at probably mid of that fiscal year before the truck showed up.
Right. Point that I'm making on that is we're talking something 2 years out, trying to actually hit it where we're hitting the public right now with this election, knowing it will be a part of the next budget discussion, and the replacement of that won't even go out to bid until that budget is finalized. So you're looking in 2020 when this piece of apparatus would physically come to the community if everything were approved.
All right, yeah, because you're thinking from signing the contract, 200, let's go a year.
Yeah.
Just round away, because there's always delays. I don't care what they say.
It's 9-10 months minimum.
January to January.
Pretty much.
I interrupted you, sorry.
I'm just curious, I mean, the, out of the total price of the fire truck, how much is actually coming out of our capital plan as far as for the replacement plan?
Well, I think that would have to be a discussion that we'd have to have at a workshop, because I don't think we want to rob the entire account, so we can maintain money in that account to keep the refurbs going.
Is this figure that we're looking at here consistent of using some of that money, or is that a total?
This is just the $675,000 is a high-end figure of what we're getting back from the vendors right now, and it's just a ballpark figure, so that's not taking in that money into account.
Just telling you.
Right. In presenting this information, you referred to a vehicles committee. What other resources have you had that actually put into this?
Pete Hunter volunteered his time to come in and take a look at the truck for us.
Okay, so his knowledge and expertise, the fact is that at best he has fire service background from the community.
Yep.
He has anything to gain in this?
No.
And Pete's pretty straightforward.
And he is a taxpayer.
And he is a taxpayer,
Right.
that's for sure. And it's his whole
Well,
life
let's
been
ask a
working
loaded
on this
question.
truck.
Does his
Absolutely.
recommendation support this today?
I actually did not ask him what as far as what he thought about placing the truck. I just wanted straightforward information out of Pete.
What needs to happen? Okay,
Absolutely,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, we're putting him in an awkward position then. Okay,
Yeah.
that was why I was asking.
Based on the prognosis in this report, is this truck even, I mean, I know we had said a 25-year life on it, but is it safe to use this truck? The way
There's some things that were, when Pete went through this, he found that's not picked up in our normal commercial vehicle inspection. That has to be addressed immediately. And work orders have already been placed to take care of some of those items. Tom Robo, my lieutenant in charge of maintenance, is dealing with that right now.
Okay.
To keep it safe. There are some, I don't think it's unsafe to use right now. Pete didn't tell me it was unsafe to use. I think he probably would have jumped up and down and screamed if it was.
Right, sure.
But there are definitely some issues that we have to, if we don't address them, that it's going to be an issue.
Thank you.
May I?
Please.
We've had this discussion before, but the relationship between the two stations, what is the compatible piece of equipment on the other side, and when is that actually looking to be replaced?
Compatible piece of equipment be engine one, which is the
Yeah.
one purchased. It's a newer of the trucks out there, 2003. So that was again 25-year expected life on that truck. So
Yep. Now, have you,
2025.
I mean,
2020.
both these roll, typically if you actually have a structure fire that calls, do both of them roll from each side of the town, same?
Ideally, right now, if staffing shows up, all the trucks respond to structure fires. Yes.
Okay. So they're both primary vehicles at this point?
Another thing is that in 2003, when we bought the two Pierces with a compressed air foam system, there was a big emphasis on using that compressed air foam. We found that works. It works really well for our community. It reduces our water consumption and makes it more efficient when we apply the CAV system. Because of that, we've been using Truck 6, the ladder, as a primary attack truck for the last 15 years. And that's been putting a lot of undue wear and tear on a ladder truck that was supposed to last us 30 years. Been using it as a pumper, which really we've been slotting for a 20, 25-year life. So if this truck goes through, the compressed air foam system on it will put in the ladder truck back into a ladder truck role and not as a primary attack truck role, which will save us wear and tear on the ladder truck over the next few years.
Any other questions of Chief?
Unrelated to the truck we're talking about tonight, but you brought the ladder truck. Did that already go for a half-life?
Yes, it did. It went 2 years ago?
I couldn't remember.
a
Yeah,
couple
both,
years ago.
both truck 6 and engine 1 went for the half-life already.
Thank you.
I know this is just related but not related. What, as far as your plan that you see with your trucks in service, and when's the next one actually due for replacement?
The next one due for replacement is engine 2, which is a 2000, so it'll be 2025. That's due to be replaced. Kind of curious to see how that goes. The engineer of the truck has stated concerns about the chassis, and so have the town mechanics when I put them on the spot. There's some concerns whether it actually make the lifespan for the 25 years.
I guess that was my point. I mean, the idea that, one thing you said was a little concerning, the idea that the commercial inspection didn't pick up on some of the stuff that Pete picked on.
Yeah.
Is kind of a little bit, I mean, that's kind of what you have a
Well, I
commercial
think
inspection
what
for.
I liked about this is that Pete's done inspections on emergency vehicles before, so he knows the really ins and outs.
Going to that point, the idea of our commercial inspections ought to be just adequately as in depth. I mean, especially since they are. But again, I mean, that's a side note. But it's one of those things that I truly believe the truck actually is you know, it's made its lifespan without a doubt. I mean, the hardest thing is coming to a council is very much like we've seen with the school when they present the idea the school's not, we need a new school because tomorrow kids aren't safe to come to school because it's so bad, and then realize we don't get funding for it. I mean, it's just nice to actually, it's nice to build a case that something's bad, but it gets to the point where Norm actually comes forward and says, should we even be running this thing down the road? You mean, so I realize it's the safety concerns you got to keep up on, but we just want to make sure that we are running safe equipment, and you know, that I know that's one of the tasks that you would actually put when you first came on, the idea of doing a full analysis of all our equipment, where they were, so we're not surprised when people say there's concerns. That's all.
I actually talked to the town manager this morning, and this was going to get done sooner. We put it on hold until after we got through this little bit first. I have plans of bringing a gentleman in out of Woolwich who's been used to be an expert witness. And I should remember a few years ago, a Boston fire truck crashed, bad brakes, and they brought him as an expert witness. He doesn't work for any fire truck manufacturing company or repair company, so he has no gain as far as who we buy a fire truck from, to give us an assessment on other vehicles in the fleet as well.
Well, I mean, I think you already brought one person from town that actually was very decent at looking at it, so I realize that Pete probably can't look at the pumps and tell you internally how that's working, but that initial assessment for chassis and for safety, I think Pete's probably as good as any expert witness you're going to bring forward. So, I mean, if we can use some local people and get signing the same assessment without spending, you know, tons of money, I think that's it. Again, I know Pete's kind of retired, so it's one of those things where he's probably did you a favor, but I think you'll find from the council, if people know Pete, they actually would take Pete's word. You know, I'm not sure how well would take someone from an outside, someone paying to come in, but again, I'm sure they're actually very worthy, but it's just one of those things where if we have someone local that actually can give us those recommendations and look at it and be as thorough, that's just one avenue that you have, that's all.
I wouldn't need somebody else's stamp to tell me that we need a new truck. That's just me. Pete says it's junk, we believe it.
To the discussion tonight, that it's a perfect opportunity to be able to give you the ability to be able to speak to why it's an ask for a need, not a want for something that's actually going to appear on the November ballot, knowing that if you are successful with that vote, that it's 2 years out before it's delivered. That's the key piece. And the fact that, yes, when we talked about this at the last council meeting, we're completely going to do it. But to miss that opportunity tonight to be able to give you, you had two goals when you came through the door. Where are we at on apparatus and staffing? You've done huge things to be able to address the first of those for the need in this community. So thank you for your effort. Anybody, anything else for Chief? Thank you.
Look for a motion.
I am looking for a motion.
I make a motion to authorize up to insurance up to $675,000 for a Bonds fire truck for replacement.
I need a second to that motion.
Second.
Does that also include the public hearing?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mark.
Includes a public hearing. Thank you, Mark. Move this along, right?
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
This information the Chief shared, could we please put this out on the town website? And anything to be able to do that, that would be most helpful.
It sits verbatim. I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
Next.
Order 2018-179, the council recommendations on your bond questions for the warrant, for the ballot for November 6th, 2018. So question number 1 would be yes or no, and question number 2, question number 3. They fall in the same order.
Page 55 of your packet.
Thank you.
Just standard procedure, right? I mean, it's pretty much.
It does make a recommendation to the public.
How did we handle this last time, Twyla, for making the motion for you?
So you just made a motion to recommend yes, or you make a motion to recommend no.
Item by item?
Do all 3 at once if you like.
I like that.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to put this on the ballot as presented to us.
Motion is for a yes on the ballot, because this is the typewritten.
Yep.
You don't have a budget advisory board, which would also appear there if you did have one. Since we don't, it just has town council recommendation. So your motion would be to include a yes.
What she said.
So basically, we're
Questions?
recommending yes.
So it's going to say
I need
town
that-
council
I need that-
approves,
I need that
recommends,
motion.
I'll
You
make the
a
motion. I
to
will
recommend
make,
yes on
yes.
all of the bonds.
I will
ballot
second.
questions.
You were feeling well. I'm putting down now, sister. So there's my motion. I need a second to
I'll
that.
second that.
There it is.
All in favor?
And order passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Next item.
All right, next item is Order 2018-180, the emergency marijuana moratorium. This is a roll call vote required.
It's on page 61 of your packet. Just a couple of key notes. The new Marijuana Act, the new laws, or the amendments to any of the laws, it will not become effective until 90 days after adjournment, and I don't know if they've adjourned yet.
I think it's going to be 12.
Is it going to be so?
I had that on good authority.
So this
See.
moratorium will be for 180 days from the date that the town enacts it, and it's an emergency warrant, so it'll be enacted tonight if you approve it.
Can we cancel it early if?
You
there-
can
when there's
repeal it,
correctly-
you
okay.
can repeal it
Okay.
before that time, yes.
And the only reason we're doing this is because we talked about it last time. We want to have more time to be able to kind of ferret out.
More time?
Any other questions? Roll call.
Okay. Do we need a
Wait,
motion?
you had a clear.
It didn't say ordinance, it already said order here, but,
To be able
An
to
ordinance, yeah.
right?
to be able to have this passed, it needed not
It
a
needs
majority.
5.
It needs 5.
Needs
That
5
was the
in
key
this
piece
case.
that you brought to us before. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Go.
majority plus 1.
So I need a motion. Who makes the motion to approve the emergency marijuana ordinance?
I need a motion.
Make the motion.
I need the second.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right.
Now,
Do
So-
we have other discussion?
yes, please.
So we're putting this in place so we have time to work through and go through. So what is our time frame on that? I mean, as far as, now this actually, I was missing last meeting, but I actually watched it online, just try to get some information. But, so this actually still has to be worked through planning board?
Right, for the zone, any type of zoning, or land use, I guess, not zoning. Well, probably could include zoning, but land use for the planning board, and then Dan Stopford said that he could work on an ordinance for you.
And then that, from what I heard, it was actually either the town actually votes in or votes out, or opts
Right,
in or
it's
opts
going
out.
to be an opt-in
Opt-in.
or opt-out.
Did we already schedule a workshop for that?
No, not yet, no.
So this actually is for 90 days, right? Is that
This is for 180.
6 months.
6 months? So we can actually, anytime within that amount of time, actually, once if we go through our process, actually,
We did that last time.
practice, right?
Yeah.
And,
Well, yeah, because this being the medical part of it, the fact that as soon as recreational becomes legal to be able to pursue, this goes away and it reverts to recreational, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Say that again now.
In fact, is once recreational kicks in, this was actually just to be able to pack it out, so it's the same understanding.
Yep. Got to get Dan's.
Don't give me an awkward
Yeah,
yet.
No.
right. I don't think anybody over on that side of the room really knows, Helen.
Don't give me an awkward yet. That's what I was saying. It's like,
I have to refer back
think
to
they're
Dan's
guessing.
letter.
that was what I remembered. This was just to actually not have the medical piece treated differently than the recreational that is coming. is what I,
Right, that was my understanding.
okay.
So basically, when the planning board puts something in effect, it's going to
Exactly.
be
Whether
both.
they're going to weigh in on opt-in or opt-out and make the recommendation, thus that we would actually act upon. Correct.
I would just want to make sure that it is in the planning board's, planning at this point in time, or that there's some time frame with it, that's all.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like a long time, but it may not be. It all depends how things play out, though. But
The state hasn't even shut their session down, so
Right,
they're
so the
still
90
90
days
days
is
out
gonna
from
take a
whenever
while
they
to
say
get
their
through that.
session's over.
Yep.
So you're already half of that time's already right there messing with them. Unless you override them and take the reins and make your own decisions for your own town.
Any other questions or discussion?
Someone-
We have the first and the
All set?
second, so go.
Yep. Counselor Albert?
Yes.
Counselor Crawford?
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
I'm abstaining because I have a hand in that, so
And Counselor Kobe?
Yes.
All right, 1,
I'm
2,
not sure how she can answer when she's already stuck her hand up for it as well.
6 yeas and no nays and 1 abstention.
You can't put anything in yet, but you made it very clear here on the day that they opened it up that you and somebody else were already in on it. So
But
I'm not
voting into
sure.
a moratorium doesn't impact anything.
Sure it does.
No, it doesn't. It's saying that we're not doing anything for 180 days.
It's 601, correct?
Correct.
Order has passed.
I'll let the chair of the planning board know that this was passed tonight, and then they can start working on.
It'd be nice to
With
get kind of a
with the
timeline.
intent to be right in that timeline, so it's the
Exactly.
90 days, so it's on their radar for the immediate future.
Yep. And I guess before an ordinance can even be worked on, I think it'd be helpful to know where the council's going to lay on this, or where they're going to fall, whether they want to opt in or opt out. So I don't know what you want to do, because that's going to make a difference, I think, on the ordinance.
Probably should have a workshop with the planning board to discuss it directly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to refer back to us as they always do, because they just want to make sure they're not spinning the wheels. Do you mean?
Like they
I mean,
don't they waste their time doing something, and then we say, no, that's the total
Wow.
opposite of what we want to do. And
I mean, if you opt in, I think that's when you need to have an ordinance. If you opt out, if you don't do anything, then that's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, you do nothing is the fact is.
Right, and if you're not leaning towards doing nothing, then we ought to start working on an ordinance.
But the ordinance could be as simple as the land use chart, like they.
It could be, yep, it could be.
I mean, you might want to have additional things. You might want to say we need,
When you speak to,
ventilation or that kind of thing.
when you bring this to planning board to find out, the fact is if they need to have a joint workshop.
Okay.
I mean, are you looking
Sooner
for
than
kind of-
later.
Are you looking for kind of a poll vote? Just
Straw.
a straw, poll, whatever, to actually get an idea of
Yeah, I
their
think it
council?
would be helpful, because.
They're going to ask the same question, because they've gone this down the
Yeah.
road how many times before, and
I
actually.
mean, there's really relatively little work to do if you're not going to opt in. If you're going to opt in, then they've got some work to do.
I'd be curious as to what some of the problem areas are. Talking about ventilation, Mark. Just the general concerns that the public maybe has expressed.
If you want to have, say, no smell beyond the borders of your property, those sort of things.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get in the weeds on it,
Right.
no pun intended. But
Kind of thing the planning board would want to
I
look
think
at.
that, yeah.
Liar. You
Yeah. The reality is, I'm sure it'd be very easy for us to get a lot of good intel, not only from the people who maybe had some concerns or complaints, but even from the folks who are actually doing the work. I mean, I'm sure they would. The last thing they want to do is be a bad neighbor and have a bunch of blowback regarding that. They want to be able to go ahead and do what they do, probably pretty low profile, and so I think they want to take care of keeping their establishment.
I think Chris is right, the idea that a lot of us, I mean, I mean, when I actually look at this, I believe this is actually for just retail sales, so to speak, not grow, right? I mean, it's not actually improving grow facilities. I believe it's actually just retail storefront, isn't it? I mean, is that kind of what this is? Or is it? It seems like there's a broad discussion there.
There's a broad discussion because I asked some questions about this was even brought up, and the stuff that I was told was to make sure that I needed a special permit or needed a special permit, needed to be in the right spot, needed to be X amount of feet away from the school, which we've complied with all of them, and we're still getting hassles. So, now that's the ugly side of it.
Well, just when he mentions the idea of, because I've sat to the planning board, the 100 some odd
Right.
hours that they messed with
Right,
it,
right,
and the question was the idea of, you're actually talking about, does this actually refer to the idea of just retail store space, or the idea of actually where someone's actually growing, because there's a big difference. I mean, the idea of the,
They already told me that I could grow out here, and I told them, no, I was all set with that.
yeah.
Planning board. Now, they're already talking about what I can and what I can't do over here, but now we're talking about whether or not we can
Yeah.
even open the door.
Yeah. Well, I-
After the people that are supposed to be figuring out what we're doing have already said yay.
which I think goes back to the point of just the kind of the confusion of the
Oh,
whole
absolutely, there's some
process,
confusion.
Because I mean, if you're actually talking about the idea of opting in, opting out, of actually just saying that you can actually have a retail space that's actually not a grow facility, but it's just a storefront,
Right.
that's a totally different creature than the idea of actually, going to the point of safety and regulations.
Manufacturing versus, yeah.
And that's on anything. I don't care if it's, whatever you're growing, doesn't really make a difference. I mean,
Well, there are guidelines. And to get to that point, if we opt in, that's where I was kind of going with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to sneeze. Hang on. If we go for the opt-in, then I think one of the things I liked the most about our last workshop that we had on this is we had some involved folks who are in that industry, and they gave some really poignant insight. And I think that it would be a real value to put that out there to those folks. Maybe those folks are doing the medical piece and may entertain the recreational once that comes into play. But I don't think it ever hurts to bring in business owners who are in tune with what they do and how they do it to get some insight before we go drafting an ordinance that might impact their business in a negative way.
Yep. But, reading through the information that Dan had actually spoke with at the last meeting, it was still confusing to me whether we were talking about the idea of kind of what you had brought up, the idea of whether this is actually a transition period through the medical, and actually when they're, in the recreational.
There's still going to be medical around when there's recreational. They're still
Exactly.
going to.
They don't merge, but the
They're
idea
not.
that the storefront part of it actually is that the merged area is not. You mean?
I don't. They
can't.
cannot.
Yeah,
You cannot.
so
You have
someone
to have
would
one or
actually-
the other, or a separate floor, or another facility in and out.
Another door on the opposite side of the same building. I mean, it's
You have to. It cannot be in the same. You can't be held in the same square footage.
same square footage.
From what I understand.
Yeah. So it's very possible that, we may be looking at, multiple different settings where you actually have retail space for recreation and retail space for medical, which, again, I mean, it's just one of those things.
Which we already took care of with the land use chart on the medical side of things. That's already
Yes
been
and no, because it's actually still that big gray area where nothing, that's why we're doing what we're doing tonight.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Presents an interesting scenario.
Back to the straw poll effect is, for me, retail is retail. To answer your question, I would have no qualms associated with opting in. So that would be what I would say to the planning board, but I'm one.
And same thing, I have no problem opting in as long as it's actually clear so everybody understands what is happening. I mean, if you're going to place an ordinance, it actually just needs to be very well written so someone comes in that's doesn't spend money in the process and then realize at the end that it's not written for the point what they intended. You mean, so
Presents an interesting scenario, and just as we were kind of talking that out, it dawned on me. So if I already have a medical established and I'm not governed by, or I'm grandfathered because I had that up before all this ordinance stuff started flying around, and then I want to go ahead and I have the retail space over the top and I want to run that route, if this ordinance is in place, how does that work for me? So I'm grandfathered in one aspect, but then not in the other.
And from what Dan was saying, I mean, I kind of watched it a couple different times. It really actually, the grandfather part was very tough to understand whether or not he was talking about if someone was to come in right now and actually open a retail storefront for medical. That being grandfathered, it wasn't really necessarily talking about a grow facility being grandfathered. It was more so the idea of just that storefront until this opt-in came in. But again, I was only reading it from what I could see. It may be a totally different interpretation.
And some people say you need the town's permission, and other people say you don't.
As
When it
far
comes
as
on the medicinal side.
On the municipal side.
Correct.
Courts will figure it out.
Right through the state, right, we will.
Yeah.
Straw poll.
I'd be in favor of opting in, yes.
Straw poll.
I don't know enough about it. That's why I want to have a workshop.
Right. But
You have an open mind either way.
Yeah.
yeah. Right. Not opposed, but need more
No,
information.
I'm not opposed at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
No.
Did you get what you need to be able to? I clearly heard 4 that are okay with at least the discussion of opting in. So you got what you need.
Yep.
And the planning board may not have to do a whole lot more than what they've already done. I mean, they've already gone through the land use, they've actually gone through a lot of the, from what I know, from what I've sat through, they've actually gone through a lot of it. There may be stuff that I don't know that's come up with a new, what's coming out. I mean, I don't know what's coming out and
The water's so murky.
yeah, exactly. So there may be situations that they may have to look at differently, but, I mean, I think they've done a lot of their legwork, so now it's just the idea of fine-tuning it and putting a blessing on it and moving it forward. I would hope. I think they've spent enough time on it. I think they'll tell you they've spent enough time on it. But
Any other discussion on that topic? Next item, 12.
Order 2018-181, the authorization to accept prepayment on 2020 tax commitment.
So I'm just looking for authorization to accept the prepayments on the 2020 tax commitment at 0% interest. We do have people that pay ahead of time on their taxes. We have
Why
several.
would you ever say no to
I was
somebody?
gonna say, what's the
offering
downfall of that besides
I know.
accounting? But
What's that?
what's the downfall besides the accounting process of
There's
everything?
no downfall. But in order to do according to the state statute, you have
Okay.
to authorize
And
it.
make the motion, we take any opportunity we can for early
Second.
tax payment.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
How does that? Just curious. Does that go in a separate account so it's actually set
I
aside?
create the 2020 receivable account, and that's where it goes in there, and it shows up on the trial balance as a credit because you don't have the debit
Gotcha.
to hit that
I was
yet,
just
so
curious.
it's just a
make sure it
credit.
didn't- Yeah, gotcha.
Next item, 12.
Order 2018-182, the police cruiser bid award.
Good evening, Chief Hagan. In the previous council meeting, we requested and received permission to go to bid to replace a 2015 Ford SUV that we have. The bids have been received. We sent the bid out to 5 area Ford dealerships. We received 4 back, and the winning bid was from Quirk Ford out of Augusta at $27,434, and our request would be to accept that bid and place the order.
Pretty tight bids. Some
They
of them
were
within
tight.
$30,
Yeah, a
right?
couple of them were very tight, yeah.
Yeah. And you're pretty, I mean, I was looking through the spec sheets, but it's kind of limited what's there. I mean, I assume that spec sheet is pretty much,
Yeah, that's pretty standard. I mean, there's nothing fancy in the vehicles, that's for sure.
now, back when they first started coming out with these, one of the bigger different options was the rear AC, no rear AC. Is that standard now in these, or is that just only
Believe it
used for
is.
K9s? or-
Yeah, yep.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, sir. Next. I need a second. All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Next item, 12.
Order 2018-183, Main Street traffic signal upgrades.
Tom Martin, Public Works Director. As I informed you folks at the last meeting, we've been working with the MDOT on trying to adjust that, the intersection on Main Street and 196, try to get a better flow of traffic. We got a quote from Andy Electric to upgrade the lights that are there using a combination of new stuff, old stuff, whatever he could find, just to see if we can make this traffic pattern work. He gave us a price of around $20,624. And we are currently working with ATRC to maybe pull some of the funding we have in queue there for that intersection upgrade whenever it happens. And at that time, we're hoping we either get some reimbursement for it, for the materials that we do put into the intersection. It's not guaranteed, but we're hoping we get some. But this will help us hopefully prove that this will be the best thing for that intersection, get away from the turn lane that the state wants to put in to go onto Main Street, salvage that parking, and hopefully reduce the scope of the work and save some real dollars. So that's the genesis behind this project.
Yeah, sure.
Please.
So pretty much so people can relate, so you're coming from Topsom into Lisbon Falls, you will actually have a dedicated left turn lane to go into
Yes.
Durham. You will actually have a straight lane that traffic can continue to flow straight without driving through the Franks.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, so you'd be moving and shifting everything just over.
Basically
just enough.
right now, we kind of have right-hand dedicated turns. We're going to go to all left-hand dedicated turns in the middle, and then you'll have a straight and right.
Put up a traffic signal with an arrow.
We'll have the signs, we'll have advanced signage, we'll obviously stripe it that way. I've asked Lane not to stripe the intersection that they're getting ready to pave, and just put toms for now, so that we can, at least half of it, we don't have to black out with black paint, so.
Well, that, I guess the question I had was, right now, if you're coming from 196 towards Topsom, and right now there's pretty much a dedicated right turn lane
Yes.
to go into Durham. Is that going to stay a dedicated right lane?
No, it'll be a straight and right.
It'd be a straight and right. So if someone was, that's the biggest thing I see is going to be a little bit hung up. A lot of people are used to just going and hanging right to go to Durham.
Change, nobody likes it, but it happens
Now
every
it's all
day.
to stay. But that's, I mean, just to make the only reason I'm making the point, that is, it's needed to move that lane over.
Yeah.
So you can get enough
Yes.
lanes so people don't drive through Frank's on the
Correct,
other side.
correct.
There's only so much width.
The other side, we're going to shift about 6 feet, so the dedicated lefts are almost opposing, so you can't go. So,
I'm only saying that just so people understand why
Right.
you had to give up
Yeah.
some on one side to actually to be able to get it on the other.
Sure.
With the hope in that it would actually flow through better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funding. I heard what you said about ARTC and potential credit down the line, but where's it coming from now?
Well, we'd like to immediately. I talked to A&D. He said he could start tomorrow if we could give him the thumbs up. So we could. We were going to take that money from the match fund that we have for those projects, the MDT match fund, and then ATRC is holding a special meeting on Thursday for us because I brought up at last week's meeting. They're going to have a joint session, policy and technical, to try and approve it to give us that money. So we probably wouldn't even spend the money by the time that would happen.
Right.
But
Right.
so that's our hope for that project, is they will actually let us use that money
Okay.
to fund the project.
The road striping, is that something that's going to need to be budgeted also? Because it will have to go back quite a ways to actually change some of that striping. Is that calculated in that price?
Yeah, we'll take care of. Lane will do the, I guess you'd call the west side of the intersection. We'll take care of the right side of the intersection. We could stripe that ourselves if we have to with our machines.
As we've seen from the past, the lane, how it's actually striped out and people knowing and pre-warning is key, right?
Yeah.
Internally, for use of police to do this in-house on that cheap, is that reasonable?
Yeah, we don't have a problem with it. Obviously, my request would be if we spend over on our overtime because we're paying officers
why.
to be down there. Don't yell at me too much next year.
Say yes now, right, pay later. Yeah, I get it.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions of Tom?
I think it'd be interesting to see how that works out. I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item.
Order
So- Sorry.
Order 2018-184, the pedestrian signal upgrades.
All right, this, again, I brought to you folks a couple weeks ago. We've been receiving a bunch of complaints for the pedestrian crossing signals down in the village. And they're just dated, the chassis are old, everything is kind of bleached out. So I requested a price from AD Electric to upgrade those. Just the heads and the buttons, the poles will stay the same, but they will replace the heads with LEDs. They'll replace the signal actuators and retime that intersection so they're all working the same.
Might be nice to have somebody paint them at the same time.
Yeah, we might be able to squeeze that in for sure, have somebody paint them up, but probably part of our downtown, our village improvement project. But
Love for your neighborhood.
I'll make a motion for discussion anyways.
Please, I get a motion.
Second.
As we did a walkthrough that night, we actually found firsthand that the lights didn't work. And some of the lights are burnt out, so I don't know if they're working or not. Trying to make going across, you get a green light to walk, and there's a right turn green there
Coming
at
right
the
on
same
you.
time.
Yeah,
And so
I know,
there's
yeah.
a lot of things that just aren't driving there. Hopefully this is, so pretty much it's for new equipment. So it's not going to be, it's going to be all LED type new lights.
all brand new heads and controllers.
So this isn't money
poles.
that's actually just a short term. This is actually long term.
Yeah, this will be an investment in that intersection that'll stay.
Which will complement the current.
I would have the same question on financing then. Where's the funding coming from this one, Tom?
We're going to pull that out of the downtown TIF reserve fund.
That made more obvious sense. So that's why I was asking like where it is something permanent.
Does fit the requirements, that's for sure. So I mean it's so just hopefully people are aware that that money is money that actually is, we get more money for every dollar for every TIF money. So this, if we were taking out of tax money, it would actually cost us more in a sense. not sure if that makes any sense to people, but
does.
it is a practicality that some of this TIF can actually help, and this one, I think it's a big safety issue.
Any other questions, Tom, on this topic? Need a motion? You got them.
Got a
Got 'em
motion.
both.
All in favor?
Order pass 7-0.
When's that going to happen? You said you could start tomorrow, too, on that one, or?
Yeah, well, yeah. Believe me, I chased him for about a month to get the prices, so I'm hoping I don't have to chase him as long to get the work done. But he told me he has everything to get the Main Street ones done, so that's good. So
One
we'll
other,
get him on top of that.
one other question is on the village. If we actually do some of those improvements next year with the grant, are we going to have to move any of these poles or anything, or is that all still pretty permanent stuff?
I
you
guess
think?
depends how elaborate we get with that
Okay,
intersection.
just curious.
I would think it's going to be cost prohibitive to do that.
Okay.
Good. Next.
Order 2018-185, the crack seal program.
I'd mentioned this again a few weeks ago about implementing a crack sealing program. Given our retraction on our paving program this year, I think it really makes we make some good headway to get a program started. There is an error there. I would prefer to ask for 15,000. That's going to give us about, we're hoping around 15 miles. We have about 70 miles. We make a recurring 5-year program. We can get 15 miles every year. And again, it's anybody's roll the dice on how far this stuff goes. You know, any given Sunday on these roads is how much they're going to need. But I think that's our smartest guess, is to say we can do a 5-year plan, follow our paving program. I went back 5 years. I put a little list there and combined what I could, and we'll kind of chase back, pick up the last I think it's about 3 or 4 years, because they had a light paving program, so that'll kind of catch us up today, and then moving forward where we're spending the $425 on paving, hopefully that'll
Be enough to cover the other piece.
because once you pave a road, it's usually a few years before you have to crack seal them, so they kind of fall in order.
So the materials you handed us tonight, you're going to catch us up from 14 to 18? Am I reading this correctly, or where's your list for the current list of candidates for?
Yeah, the list you have in front of you, the crack seal list right here.
Yep.
You're going to have from 14 to 18. Those three.
That
columns.
group is what
Yep,
you're looking
yep.
for right now.
We'll do them all this year. Yes.
Do you actually see a difference? I mean, I see you have Houston Street on there, which was actually one of the ones that were chip sealed on top. Do you actually notice those actually needing to actually have
Well,
that?
the design of chip seal is they're supposed to seal themselves, which
Correct, yep.
some do, some don't. So,
Yeah.
and again, it's just covering ground. They will go over them all and crack seal the
You
cracks.
notice that out by your place at all? I mean, Houston Street, I've been kind of keeping an eye on just because I live
I live on Firewall Street, and it sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, do you notice it cracking and stuff?
Of course
I
you
mean,
do.
You do?
Of course you do, especially right over here on the curve,
Yeah, right.
where they didn't do any, where they didn't do any underground. They didn't do anything. They just,
Chip seal it.
never mind. They made the street so much higher than my driveway. That now the end of my driveway is a pond. Well, keep going. I mean, there's been a lot of things. I got stone that's in my garages. I sweep out almost every week. I would never vote for that stuff ever again, anywhere, ever.
I guess you just need to look to see where it's needed and put it down. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's maintenance. It's actually
It is, yeah.
spend now or spend later. So
But I would like to try and get to about 1,000 gallons this year, which would be about $15,000 in total.
Yeah, I think it's great to preserve the roads from not getting water in those cracks and freezing and thawing
Keep
and
a good
breaking
roads
it up
good
more.
mentality and
now Route 9 and stuff, that's actually state. So state would actually seal that typically. If
no,
there's-
we actually take, from compact in, we take care of that. So,
Which is just
and I
above
do
the-
have, I planned on doing that every year. We would go over those 3 main routes every year
Yeah.
in the plan, because obviously those are higher traffic routes that we want to keep as good as we possibly can.
And it's definitely worthwhile trying.
Funding's there. It's not currently actually allocated for the 425 after last meeting's action that some idiot in charge took. But
Is that your inside boys talking?
no, that was a thought.
Oops.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, I am looking for a motion.
Yeah, okay, I make a motion that we actually move forward with the crack sealing program and give it a try.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Order pass 7-0.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank
Next.
Order 2018-186 to request to solicit bids for a new public works truck.
This was a truck that was in the budget, approved in the budget process to replace truck 206, which is a 3/4 ton pickup truck, hasn't been inspected for almost a year. And we have a fairly new plow on that, so we'll take the new plow off it and put it on. It'll just be a straight pickup, 3/4 ton pickup truck for plowing and general maintenance.
Anybody got any qualms letting a man go out to something that we approved through the budget process?
Nope.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hope
Order
you can
passed,
find one for the
7-0.
price, that's all, because they're hot commodity right now. So.
Yeah, I know, good.
You're looking for a 3/4 ton, 8-foot box, just straightforward.
Straight, yep, plain Jane.
Had to find.
Good luck.
Next.
Order 2018-187, request to solicit bids for winter sand.
I know we hate to talk about it, but winter will be here, so just trying to get ahead of the curve.
Can't wait.
Put out
Here it
for
comes.
1,000 to 1,500 yards of winter sand. It was in the budget.
I will make a motion.
Second.
Now we'll have discussion.
Sure.
I need the second.
Second.
There you go.
I thought you said you would do
No,
it.
no, no. I need the second.
The question, you actually, in years past, I think we've actually done bidding, so we actually haul, and this year I noticed you mentioned delivered. Is that just a different approach?
We have so much work to do that we need to be boots on the ground getting our work done, so, it's much more economical to have a 16, 18-yard truck hauling in there than it is a 5-yard truck, so.
Yeah. Do you find in communities it's actually a premium when you actually start getting it hauled? Do you feel that you can actually get a fair bid that way?
Well, yeah, we can't haul it as competitively as that. I mean, just pure one driver, one truck. I can haul 5 or I can haul 16.
I mean, I think it's actually not a bad idea, because one of the things that's always concerned me in the past is when we took bids, we never considered mileage in the bid. It was just we went by dollar value per yard. So
Yeah, if you're trucking it 30 miles, who cares? You're only paying $1 for it. You're paying 10 to deliver it. So
exactly, and we actually have some places, fairly local that would work. But
quite a bit of competition around here, so I'm hoping that works in our favor.
But yeah, I just noticed that was different than the bid process I've seen before, so I was just kind of curious what the mindset was there. But.
I'll make that bid. I'll make that.
Yeah.
We have a motion.
We already have a second.
We have first and second.
Just looking for all in favor, yeah.
Yep. Always good.
7-0, order passed.
Sorry, I kind of jumped.
We're wearing him down.
While you're up there,
Wear
can
me
you give us an
down.
update on when the
the clock
ETA
was a
on when
long
the
time
paving
ago.
is going to be done on 196 here? Do you have any info on that?
Well, I'm assuming they were going to probably do it last night, but it looks like they got a little damp on them, so they didn't do it. So I see it's all marked out to be paved. They've got their
Spotlights on the edge of
lines,
the road
and
tonight, so I'm sure they're
I
gonna
know
do it.
they're ready. So it should be. If they're not going tonight, I would be surprised.
Okay, excellent.
Are they?
There you go.
Great. So yeah.
Good call, thank you.
Next item.
Order 2018-188, the facade grant bid award.
Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. You have before you a bid on the CDBG facade grant. This was for the property of 273 Lisbon Street. The scope of work was for a roof replacement as well as painting. However, I only received a bid on the roof replacement, and because of the deadline, after speaking with DCD, they had allowed us to seek a quote for after the bid deadline. So I'm asking council to award the bid of $39,878 to Fairbanks Roofing, contingent on the project being completed by November 30th, as specified in the bid invite.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And Mr. Stroud is good with this.
Yes, I spoke with Mrs. Strout and asked them all to come in
Mrs. Stroud.
tomorrow to sign the paperwork. But yes, they're good to go, and they're going to take on the painting themselves. So this will be only for the roof for this project.
Okay. They're good with it. We're good with it. All in favor?
Thank you.
7-0, order passed.
Next item.
Order 2018-189, the Durham Animal Control Officer contract.
So recently I was contacted by Durham, and they asked me if we would provide a quote for animal control officer services. Up until 3 years ago, they did contract with the town of Lisbon, and then they chose to leave us. So I have given her initial an amount for them to consider for a 3-year contract. And then subsequent to that, they asked me if I would provide them with a quote from now until year end, because they no longer have an animal control officer. So I'm still working out the details of that. What I'd like you to do tonight is to authorize me to negotiate and execute an interim contract between now and year end, which is going to look like about a third of the total contract. The total contract for a year would be about $9,500, based on an estimated calls for service and on their population. To negotiate a 3-year contract, to the interim contract, because I want to work with them on a 3-year contract, because they're also looking at going to the county for their dispatching services. So if we could put a package deal together and work with them, the chief and myself and the comm center supervisor are going to go over to their meeting next week and do a presentation to their council on our dispatching services. And we were there last week with Alan, and Fern also showed up, and just met before their council meeting with their chair and provided them with some information. Now we want to do it for the whole entire Board of Selectmen.
I'd make this motion.
I'll second that.
You good with the joint combining the two?
Yes, sir. We're all good.
And you actually have you have the ability of animal control to take on that task. I mean, he already has in the past, I realize, but
Well, the last 2 months, they've had 18 calls. So in theory, 9 calls a month. Yeah, I think we can take that on. Now, realistically, maybe people haven't been calling because they've had some issues with their ACO, so it might be a little more. But right now, on paper, it looks like something we can handle.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you. Next item,
Under other business, council committee reports.
school.
Nothing new other than to say that school is in session. Please pay attention when the little kids crossing the crosswalks and the buses stopping.
Slow down.
Planning is later. Water is, we had the report last meeting. LDC.
actually gave council some pictures earlier of some drawings that Dean Willie did for the Graziano Square. Two things I'd like to bring forward tonight is the idea of allowing the committee to put some of these renderings online so people can actually take a look to see what they are. And again, just emphasizing they are just potentials. Pretty much what it does is it makes that area green space with a gazebo, some picnic tables, and cleans it up, makes it look like a very inviting corner. And again, it's one of those things where I'd just like to have council's permission to actually allow that to go out onto the internet, because once it's out there, it doesn't come back. We want to make sure it's out there and everybody's kind of aware of what's going on, so if there is questions. The second part of this is I would like to have the council give Diane and Tom kind of a direction. We have that spot. It actually doesn't look any much different than it was since we purchased it. We have some ideas. Some of the things that we know that need to happen is to even just meet our requirements of any other landowner. The foundations need to be put down to level. We need to clean it up. Fall is always the best time to actually plant green. We actually have the funds already allocated for it. I would like to see if the council could actually get some information from Tom and Diane on how to move forward with that, whether it's, I did speak to Tom earlier about the idea whether or not the town gets an excavator and open it up ourselves, or the idea of putting it out to bid for a local contractor to get in there and spend a couple days. I guess that would actually have to lean on your expertise to maybe pull that forward, whether or not, I mean, it does sound, if we don't have enough time to haul sand, we may not have enough time to actually play with an excavator. So we have funding available. We just, I guess, if we are going to bid it out, would be the idea to put together a proposal for the town, for us to look at, so we can put it out to bid to actually get that done this fall. At least start the project. I think a lot of people are just like to see something happen there, and just the idea of getting the foundations down, get it cleaned up, make it look like something, so it doesn't become a election billboard corner. So. Go ahead.
Tom Martin, Public Works Director. We have rented an excavator for the month of September to kind of go along with a shoulder rehab program that's going to start, October. And so we could go over there and try and play around a little bit and see what this machine could do. It's not a hammer hoe or anything, so that might be an anticipated cost, is getting a hammer hoe for a day over there and just knock some stuff around. I mean, we can clean it up with the cleanup machine, no problem, and get it graded out and get some loam. We're talking probably a couple days of effort there, so I'm sure it's something we can probably squeeze in.
I guess I'd be leaning towards you to give us the recommendation on where that would be, if that's something you, I just know people would like to see something happening out there, and since if we're not going to have someone else using that lot, I would like to see moving forward. I know we can't complete that whole thing this fall, but it'd be nice to actually get the foundations cleaned up and maybe get some green
Something
space.
happen.
Something happening, so people can see what's going on there. So, I guess would kind of lead, if it is the idea, I mean, there's some local contractors that probably like to have a nice 2-day project over there too, so maybe we get some realistic bids, and it's not a big project, so,
Yeah.
but it does take the right equipment.
Oh, yeah, I could put together an RFP if you'd like to, for contractors, like a 2-day project or so many hours.
But you felt confident the fact that if we had it internally, the fact you have one rented to be able to make it work.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's going to take much time
Sold.
to clean it up, but
Sold.
We
I
may
made
need
the
to-
I made the motion.
we may need to rent some equipment like a hammer hoe to
Yeah.
obviously hammer the concrete out, so.
Yeah, well, we want to be as savvy as we can with money, so if you can make it work, and then if not, at least we know what we need to bid out, right?
Sure, sounds good.
I need a second to my motion.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you for that.
Order passed 7-0.
Put more shit on your plate, Tom.
Make it look good.
Oh, and second piece, he is okay to actually put these out, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody's
Council
good
all
with
set
that?
with that?
Looked good to me.
Yeah.
Great.
Please. Now, you want to reach out to Scott, because I know I
Make
have.
sure it's marketed as a preliminary design, so
Yep.
people know.
Yeah, correct.
If nothing else, we'll get people that have concerns to be at our next meeting to actually help us out with it, so
Right.
it's always welcome.
Conservation is next week. Recreation.
Nothing to report.
County budget starts tomorrow. Public hearing for the commissioners' first meeting is at 5:15 in the county, so I'll be there. The 12th is the first meeting of the budget advisory. Sorry, they have yet to be able to find somebody, so you're still on the hook. And that runs through the months of September, so we're gearing up for that as well.
So when's the first meeting?
First one for you would be, you want to make the public is tomorrow at 5:15.
Okay,
The first one for the county budget is 6 o'clock next, on the 12th.
on the 12th, okay.
Thank you. Library, sorry, I hit you with that.
Oh, they have the project there is ongoing to do the heating and the carpet replacement. That's got a lot of moving parts going there, so that's going to be up to Diane, another Diane, and our code enforcement officer, and who's the buildings director, and hopefully that'll all come together. If it doesn't, it'll be a spectacular train wreck.
Yeah, well, it is. It's coming together.
That's
It
good.
will.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
That's important.
Town manager.
The only thing I have to report is we did get word today that the funding has been approved for the grant. I mean, the state is getting the $300,000, so they're just waiting for it to get into their account. But the contracts have all been signed, and it's all approved, so it's a go for us.
We're talking about actual money now.
Actual money, yep.
Green stuff, you can count it.
So at the next council
Count it,
meeting,
we're already spending it.
Tracy will have an agenda item to set a public hearing.
Beautiful.
Perfect, thank you.
Next, Twyla.
Under appointments, order 2018-190 to appoint warden for the November 6th election, Rick
Oh my
Roberts.
gosh, she's
I
going
know
back to
it.
Ricky Roberts again.
I make that motion.
I grudgingly seconded it.
All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
That was so easy.
Next.
Council committee, council communications.
I had a brilliant suggestion. I'm going to give him credit. Fern made the suggestion that if we could shoot for meetings like tonight, which precede follow a Monday holiday, that we try to shoot for the council agenda going out on a Thursday. The observation is made that limited staff time to be able to prepare for this kind of stuff, or I know the number of questions that I asked of you guys today, it puts us in a really awkward position, and rest assured the public sees it too. So if we could put that out one day in advance, that would ease that, make it a little bit easier for everybody all the way around.
Maybe make it Tuesday morning transition a little easier after a long holiday.
Yeah. So that's 100% Fern, but I think it's best, and I think that would be the intention.
You said it well, Alan.
Thank you.
You did better than I could have.
Next.
Audience participation and response for new items.
Anybody got anything else?
Yes. Yes.
Bueller.
Yes. We should, then if some people have not got enough information about medicinal marijuana, I think that we should set a date for a workshop coming soon.
Good idea.
Okay. Any suggestions for a date, sir? You want to pick a Tuesday? You wanna
Yeah, next Tuesday?
Next, or you want to do it at 6 o'clock for the same night as the scheduled meeting?
We're having a meeting on the 11th and not the 18th?
No, 18.
We're having a public hearing on the 18th,
Something.
so you'd have time to do a workshop.
Same start time?
Because the public hearing, we're meeting at 6 o'clock on the 18th to accommodate the Sabatis board, because
Right.
we're doing that joint public hearing on the dangerous building.
Okay.
So you could do that won't take long, and then go into your workshop, and then go into your regular meeting.
Wow, I'd like to push it for the 11th. Did I say that already once?
The question I have
Plus,
is,
they're going to be over in Durham,
Yeah,
remember?
that's true, too.
the question I have is, do we actually, the workshop 100%, but do we actually have a person that we could bring in to answer all our questions, other than the idea of just being hypothetical? I mean, is there anybody from at the state level that actually has the answers or knows the policies? I mean,
I can make a call to a woman tomorrow, and I think she could make it.
yeah, it'd just be nice to have someone here that we could ask questions to, so that it's not taking their opinion of it, but
It's
actually.
not an opinion, it's actual
what-
fact.
What the law is and what backs it up, that's all. I mean, that's only a recommendation.
No,
Just-
no, it's-
we could do the same thing we did tonight, have a lot of, maybe
What ifs,
this
and
or
the
what
what ifs
ifs.
don't
and-
do anybody any good, right?
And how does this actually link up? I mean, I would love to actually know the true transition or the link or disconnect between medical and recreational. I mean, it's, one's already pretty much established, the other one's kind of new, and how do they actually, I didn't know the idea that you couldn't actually have a storefront that actually shared the same square footage. Because initially they were trying to make it that way, right? So it was all just one, right? But now it's actually
We want
not.
two separate entities, two different cash registers, different wall, different ins, different outs, different.
Did you want to do this jointly with the planning board? Because
I
maybe
think-
we could do it on a
They
Thursday.
should be
Two birds.
included.
Yeah.
They
Two
should be
birds.
included.
Anybody that has an interest I think would want to be here, right?
13th, okay with you? Chris?
You're asking the
I'm
planning
gonna
board to join you
send
on
a text
Tuesday,
out.
right?
Oh, no, he's saying the 13th
13th?
now,
Oh,
which
no,
is
we're
a
at the
Thursday.
13th.
A Thursday? Okay,
The only reason being is to be able to do it on a planning board night.
okay.
Excuse me, on the 13th, we have the final meeting of the Board of Assessment Review on the difficulty we had with the power company.
And what time is that?
I believe it's 4:30 in the afternoon. We want to get it done so it frees up for the planning board.
Okay, so they
I
normally,
think it's more than about 15 to 20 minutes at most.
So we should be all set.
6 p.m. if it's agreeable with Dawn for the 13th?
Yep.
You got what you need to be able to send that to her?
Yep,
And if there's any-
13th at 6, is that what you said?
If there's any paperwork ahead of time that will actually help us through the communication process to send it out, that would be good, so we can actually read up and find out. The other literature we got was good, it was still left a lot of hanging questions, but.
Now, I can go on MMA's website, they've got some stuff from a class that they taught. I mean, I don't. They're actually right in here, too. It's right in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still kind of confusing, though, unfortunately. I know it must be easy to the person that
Going
knows
in,
it.
going into that, if we could have a somewhat of an agenda, just so again, so it's not free-form, to be able to address counselors.
Yep.
It has purpose, because I'm clearly hearing that there's a need from at least a couple of parties to be able to make sure that there is purpose for when we come out of it. Anything else?
Yeah, quick one. Nice win by the Greyhounds last Friday. Let's keep rolling.
It's the first I'd heard a score, so thank you. Roll Hounds. Next item.
Executive session, there are none, so order 2018-191 to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second? All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you all.
9:09.
You heard a man running in flip-flops. How desperate is that?